Hi guys, and welcome to week 2. This week we're reading Marigolds by Eugenia Collier, and I want to just take a minute to talk about annotating because the skill is something that will help you in this course and any time you have required reading for another course as well. It's something that I've used time and again, and it's something that helps me to come back to texts weeks later for an exam or even years later if I pick up a book that I've read in the past and I want to either read it again or make connections to something I'm reading currently. So I have before you a screenshot of the first page of Marigolds. I printed it out and I did some note taking that I think will help you. So the first thing you'll notice is that there's different colors. So I encourage you to either use highlighters or even if you have a red pen, a black pen, a blue pen, just to kind of make sure that the different things you're annotating are clear. So I included in Blackboard in the lecture folder for this module things to look out for as you're reading. One of the things to look for was literary devices, and we haven't really gone into specifics of literary devices. We're going to take those piece by piece, but you may remember some from previous years of schooling, things like metaphor and simile. And throughout this story, you're going to notice that Collier uses tons of figurative language like metaphors and similes, and it really brings the piece to life. So if you, again, see where I have started annotating, you have a metaphor really early on, that first paragraph. She describes memory as an abstract painting, which I think is a really beautiful way to describe that kind of elusive mental images that we all have. So if we remember metaphor from high school, it's comparing two things in not an obvious, explicit way, which is a little bit different than a simile, which you'll notice in paragraph 2. In line 5 here, we have a simile also comparing two things, but you may remember from previous years that a simile uses the word like or as, and in this case, we have the word as. So in that sentence, for example, she says, I feel again the chaotic emotions of adolescence, elusive as smoke, yet as real as the potted geranium before me now. So again, you're going to see time and again that she comes back to this really beautiful language to describe these memories from her childhood. Sometimes they don't fall into the categories of metaphor or simile. You'll see at the bottom we have another example of figurative language, and she calls the futile waiting as sorrowful background music. So just keep an eye out for things like that. So even if you're not sure what literary device it is or why you're having a reaction to it, if there's just a line that you just find beautiful or interesting or important for some reason, just underline it. Maybe worry about going back later on and clarifying what that sentence counted as or why it was important. You might not know immediately. So other things to kind of keep your eye out for are vocabulary words that you're not familiar with, and I've circled some in orange that I thought may be new words. Maybe they're not completely new, but you're not 100% sure of how you would define it, like words like incongruency, nostalgia, scheme, feudal, words like that you may want to take the time to circle. Look up the definition, and then just add a little arrow and write the definition right in the margin. So later on, you can come back to that definition, have it right there so that the whole piece really starts to have more meaning. When we gloss over words we don't quite understand too often, the significance of the piece can kind of get lost. Another thing that I asked you guys to keep your eye out for when you're annotating are things that are just either confusing because you don't understand them, or maybe they're intentionally is information that's left out or hasn't been revealed yet. So an example of that is in paragraph 2, when she talks about a devastating moment, but the author has not chosen to give us any information about what that moment is. So in the margin, I just wrote for myself, what devastating moment? So it's something that I know I need to keep my eye open for. Connections was another thing I asked you guys to look for. We talked about just looking for things that remind you of something else you've read, something in the news, even if it's just something in your personal life. Making that personal connection with the piece can help it hold more meaning for you, essentially. And then it's something you can come back to when you have to use it for an essay or for an for an exam. you can remember more than just plot, basically. So that devastating moment to me was reminiscent of sexual experiences. So I wasn't sure at that point what devastating moment it was. But since we learned that she's 14 going on 15, in that age, it just seemed like maybe that's what she was getting at there. And I think she does that intentionally. And if you haven't read the story yet or not, I won't explain to you what that devastating moment truly is, but she definitely at least wants us to think that that is what constitutes growing up when she does become more woman than child, but it's actually something very different, and I'll leave that to you guys to read to find out. Other questions that I asked myself was, who would this you was? So again, I'm not looking at it. No one's going to typically be collecting your annotations at this level. It may be something that you turned in for credit in your earlier years, but that's not something I'm going to look for. So just do these for yourself. Make these annotations just very personal to you so that, like I said, you can come back and you can pick up this piece and it means something helpful for you. So I hope that is something that you're willing to do with me, is just to continue to engage with these texts in this more specific way. And if there's ever any questions about annotating or other reading comprehension questions, please let me know. I'm looking for other pieces of content that I can add to make that easier for you. I found some YouTube videos on annotating, but none of them seemed super helpful. But feel free to go outside of our course, of course, if that was something that you wanted extra help for. All right, so enjoy Marigolds, and I look forward to seeing your answers to the discussion questions this week. Thanks, guys.